Good evening, welcome to Have I Got News for You? I'm Martin Lewis. In the news this week, James May has rebuffed claims that the latest series of the Grand Tour has run out of steam. Ahead of next week's local elections, the Reform Party campaign bus pulls into Blackpool. And on Gardener's World, Monty Don realises it may be time to clean off the slimy green algae from his decking. On Ian's team tonight is a comedian whose latest show is about his love of the US rock band 9 Inch Nails, which has attracted a lot of their fans to his gigs. Sadly, though, half of them are hammered. Please welcome Ignacio Lopez. On Paul's team tonight is a presenter who hosts a podcast with Robert Peston called The Rest Is Money. Other money-based podcasts are available. And better. Please welcome Steph McGovern. Well, I say that's where you both are for now, but of course, if you ditch and switch later, you could save £6 a month. We begin with the bigger news stories of the week. Ian and Ignacio, have a look at this.
That's the last package holiday I went on.
That's the bill. Just gone through.
That's Fishy Rishi on a boat there. It's great.
Yeah.
And, oh, that's him looking at the camera.
Thinking, oh no, it's the public. I might have to meet them.
Yes, this is Rishi Sunak's master plan to win the next election by appealing to traditional Tory voters, and it's falling into place perfectly. So let's just go through it. What is step one of Rishi's master plan here?
Lose election.
This is the Safety of Rwanda bill. It's passed, tick.
No, they finally got it through. So this policy that nobody seems to want and won't happen anyway is officially now going to happen.
They tried to do this before. I think they had 12 people on the flight heading over there. And I think it's a terrible policy, but that would have been great leg room.
Yeah.
He's being very careful with his words. He said the flights will definitely take off, but he's not indicated whether there'll be anybody on them.
Yeah. They originally said it'll be spring, and we seem to have moved spring to July now. The money, I thought, was the best thing in this. It's £600 million total, which is £2 million per person on the flight. I mean, that's more than Ryanair, isn't it?
Ryanair are trying to get in on the act on this as well, aren't they? Because Michael O'Leary's come out and said that he'd be happy to quote for their flights.
Surely these people have suffered enough.
Yeah, there's that. Because, you know, they'll get the bill and then it'll be like, oh, it's going to be an extra if you want to breathe on the flight. Before you know, it'll be even bigger than that.
When he was Chancellor, he said this is a terrible idea. So he's now putting through a bill that he didn't want anyway, was set up by Boris Johnson. Remember him? So much of what he did went so well. And he thinks this is going to save him from defeat in the election.
When they picked this place, though, couldn't they have picked any country that when you type it into Google doesn't autocorrect to genocide immediately after it?
And embarrassingly, we have accepted asylum seekers in Britain from Rwanda on the grounds that it's not safe there for them. Yeah. So presumably if we fly them over on the plane, then they can then apply for asylum in Britain and then come back again.
Perhaps the plane should be on like a bungee rope so it just flies straight back. That'd be the way to do it.
I understand these things are complicated. Which is why the BBC invested a substantial portion of licence fee money in a new explanatory analysis tool, which was presented by Chris Mason.
But hang on, there are some parliamentary shenanigans first. When a planned new law is very nearly there here at Westminster, but there is a disagreement between the House of Commons and the House of Lords, we enter something known here as ping pong, when the idea pings and pongs between the Commons and the Lords, potentially over and over again, until they agree.
It's difficult to understand the logic of pointing at a very small-scale building of the building that you're sitting in front of.
So how is Rishi Sunak preparing to deal with the expected legal challenges to this?
He said, I've got judges waiting, I've got 25 courts. I mean, given that the rest of the judicial system has more or less come to a standstill, you can't get tried for anything. People are waiting. They've got 3-year waits for really serious crimes. And then for this, suddenly we've got judges, we've got courts, we've got aeroplanes.
Are you saying that normally you can't buy a judge for love or money?
Sunak also said there would be 500...
Is he Sunak? Why is he suddenly Rishi Sunak? Has he changed his name to be more sunshine and fun?
Rishi also said...
Yeah.
There would be 500 highly trained individuals to accompany detainees on their trip to Rwanda. What do you think they're trained in?
Empathy.
Distributing packets of complimentary nuts?
Are they security specialists? Are they members of G4S?
Or are they security specialists?
Yeah, I think...
Back to Rishi's traditional Tory values master plan. What's phase 2?
Are we releasing killer whales into the channel?
Back to basic Tory values.
Oh, sex in the office with drugs.
And phase 3?
What do you know about sex in the office with drugs, Ian? More Ovaltine, my dear?
I'm thinking more of the, you know...
What?
The defence of the nation.
We're increasing the defence budget.
Yeah, by getting rid of some of the civil service.
By deporting them to Rwanda.
He's announced on a visit to Poland an increase in defence spending from 2% to 2.5% of GDP. And this announcement was, of course, intended to wrong-foot Labour. So
Yes.
how has Keir Starmer been fighting back?
By telling us all we need to be really patriotic.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more for the moment about the big announcement this week.
Oh, the railways.
No, he said he'd be prepared to press the nuclear button.
If it made the railways run on time. With a nuclear explosion, you could get from Paddington to Leeds in 10 minutes. Don't buy a return.
Is that what you were thinking of?
No, I was more renationalise the railways. That's where we were going roughly
right,
on that
OK.
particular one. And what I'd like to know, how do you think that's going to affect normal travellers?
It'll make things better, I would guess.
I'm genuinely in credit on my, delay repair.
Yeah.
Like, because every single train is always late. You can't rely on it, can you? Labour want to bring an automatic delay repair, though, don't they? Where you don't have
Right.
to do anything and then you get it.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
They do want to bring that in, although how that would work with cash-based purchases, I don't know.
But when was the last time anyone used cash?
Lots of older people still use cash.
Yeah,
Yes.
they got to bribe the Tories somehow. They got to give them, they can't just...
You mentioned earlier that Keir Starmer also wanted to be patriotic. How did he do that?
He wrote to all the Labour candidates for the upcoming election and said that they needed to be dead enthusiastic and wave the flag and all of that kind of thing. St George's Day is not St Patrick's Day, is it? Come on, there's no down in Guinness, wearing a leprechaun hat, getting jiggy in the local Irish centre. There's none of that, is there?
Well, you come to our village,
Tell me, what do you do in your village, Ian?
There's a huge amount of cider, Morris dancing. I recite the complete works of Shakespeare. First day.
And it's a reenactment of the repeal of the Corn Laws.
Did you see Leandertal, as I was?
No.
He did a thing about St George's Day, and he said how he was incredibly proud, and he had St George's cufflinks, and he said, "This is one in the eye for all you lot of avocado-eating Palestinian flag wavers." And I was thinking, St George came from Palestine.
He kicked off about the England shirts on the back of the collar being purple and said, "You don't change it purple. How dare you, disrespect the flag by changing it and making it purple?" And I was thinking, I grew up in Mallorca, right? I saw plenty of St. George's tattoos turn purple in my time.
But he isn't the only one. Keir Starmer tried to reclaim the flag of St George on St George's Day, claiming that Labour is the party of patriots while wearing trainers. There you go. Now, I'm sure you've spotted, Ian, they're gazelles rather than sambas. Keir Starmer explained that...
They're what?
Ian, have you ever worn trainers before?
How dare you?
Keir Starmer explained that he might be asked to kick a football for a publicity stunt, so he didn't want to wear his normal footwear, which is understandable. Can we close in on that? Can we have a look at his feet?
They look a bit like horses' hooves, don't they? He's not a centaur, is he? They've kept that quiet. Never mind Angela Rayner, half man, half horse. According to the latest Gallup poll. Gallup poll! Yeah. Brilliant.
Shall we move on with a little bit of Irish politics now?
Yes.
Are you aware of the factions within the Irish National Party?
No.
Well, nationalist organisations tend to generate a lot of acrimonious infighting. Here is the new party leader, Justin Barrett, explaining why he had appointed his rival, James Reynolds, as his deputy.
As he referred to himself, I had no respect for his intellect. No, I did not. I have never had any respect for Mr. Reynolds' intellect. And you say to yourself, well, if you didn't have any respect for Mr. Reynolds' intellect, why did you make him the deputy leader of the National Party? Precisely because I had no respect for his intellectual ability and therefore thought he was a malleable individual and therefore thought in practical terms that control of the National Party was entirely in my hands and would continue to be entirely in my hands and was entirely safe because James Reynolds was too stupid to do anything about it.
Refreshing burst of honesty there.
Yeah. He looks like he should be a commentator on like, a horse racing or something, doesn't he, with that, that animation?
This is the news that, in a surprising historical reversal, Britain is about to start rounding people up against their will and shipping them to Africa. The Rwandan scheme is proving quite expensive. It's currently projected to have a base cost of £370 million over the 5-year contract. But on top of that, there's an additional charge of £150,874 per migrant deported. Although I've looked into this and they can get £25 off that if they use a voucher code. I've managed to source this one. At the start of the week, Rishi Sunak insisted...
Who is he? Who is Rishi Sunak?
I think he's a cross between a sunbed and an anorak.
No ifs, no buts. These flights are going to Rwanda. Quite a claim. May I suggest, Prime Minister, you ensure they are ATOL protected, that you pay for it on a credit card so you have Section 75 protection, and, of course, you pay it off in full. In full! Oh, a bit weak.
What? Why are they doing that?
I think he's trying to turn it into a catchphrase.
That lasts 15 years. It works, just on a different channel.
Which one's that?
He can't remember.
Paul and Steph, take a look at this.
Ah, yes, this is a lovely story. The little boy and the seagulls.
Oh, that was me on a hen do. Yeah.
There's the natural enemy, the OAP and the seagull. Yes, there's a boy who's won a competition for impersonating seagulls, and he does a very, very good impersonation of a seagull.
Indeed, quite correct.
That's right, yeah, I wouldn't bother saying.
What, is it just the sound?
Yeah.
No, he doesn't fly around the room. What do you mean? What do you mean, is it just the sound?
You said it was impressive!
But he dresses up
Yeah, he
as the
flies out the
seagull.
window and nicks people's chips on a height of 10,000 feet.
He dresses up as the seagull as well, though.
Yeah.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, he does, yeah. It's not just any old competition.
No,
He won
exactly.
the European finals.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Yeah.
What have you ever won, Ian? Come on.
Yeah, you're right.
The hearts of the nation.
Oh, yeah.
In a raffle.
Cooper Wallace beat 56 other competitors in the 4th annual goal screeching competition in Belgium.
Yeah.
Let's listen.
3, 2, 1. Cooper! Can you do other emotions? A seagull that is hungry.
Yeah.
Right! And the jury, 17, 19, 19, 18 and 19! Good luck!
any impressions at all?
I can do The Godfather, actually.
The Godfather?
Yeah.
OK.
Yeah.
You come here on the day of my daughter's funeral. Funeral? I love the remix of the movie.
Yeah. Here's one for you they told me to play.
The name's Bond, Bank and Building Society Bond. And if you like your investments, neither shaken nor stirred, I'm licensed to bill.
Is that you?
Let's move on.
What was that for?
Let's move on.
It looks like a hostage video.
Staying with children, what has turned 100 this week?
Oh, the BBC's programmes for children, educational programmes for children, first started in, what must have been 1924.
It was indeed. Here is one of the earliest programmes to be broadcast.
Yes.
A preposition is a word composed of position and pre, which means before. In other words, preposition. Prepositions are in a position before the nouns. Now, all these prepositions are at the end of the sentences. There are pedantic grammarians who sometimes object to this, but there's no harm really in using prepositions at the end of a sentence in ordinary conversation.
Is that you, Ian?
Could be. Could be.
Well, I think the diction's a little too casual.
This is the news that 9-year-old Britt Cooper Wallace has won the European Seagull Screeching Championships. Cooper Wallace's total immersion in the role of a seagull wowed the panel, leading him to a score of 92 out of a possible 100, dropping 2 of those marks for eating a cigarette butt and a further 6 for shitting on a judge's head. BBC is, of course, looking to attract a younger audience. And what's cooler than a money-saving expert hosting a topical news quiz? Hey, kids, put down that vape and let's jam on the fact that since the 6th of April, you can now open 2 cash ISAs in a tax year, not just 1.
Can you really?
Yes. Still to a maximum of £20,000, though, but you can have them in separate places. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
And now to round 2. It's time for the randomiser of news. Fingers on the buzzers, teams.
That is the horrifying thing I see when I've taken the wrong medication before I go to sleep. Is it Joe Biden?
It is indeed.
He's managed to pass a bill through to give more funding aid to Ukraine.
Yeah, this is the news that a $61 billion US aid package to Ukraine has finally been agreed. Why has it taken so long to be signed off?
He lost his checkbook.
The Republicans didn't want it, did they? So he had to sort of win them over.
112 Republicans voted against the aid package. Let's go on to talk about Joe Biden's uncle Ambrose. What claim about him made by his nephew is being disputed?
He didn't invent the rice pudding.
No, this is that Joe Biden said this week his uncle's plane had been shot down during World War II and that he had then been eaten by cannibals on what is now Papua New Guinea.
What?
How has the president of Papua New Guinea reacted?
We didn't have any anti-aircraft guns at the time.
According to the Daily Star,
Oh, well, there we are.
the president of Papua New Guinea wants to make it clear that we did not eat Biden's uncle. Which is indeed true, as his uncle's plane ditched in the ocean. Now, Biden's got form in this area. Do you know anything else that President Biden has said that's turned out not to be true?
He couldn't remember the name of Hamas. I think he thought it was hummus.
It's just a tahini problem. Meanwhile, in a New York courtroom, why is Donald Trump's treatment being described as cruel and unusual?
The judge is, I don't know, doing really cruel and unusual things, asking him to tell the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Nothing but the truth.
Let's find out.
The guy needs exercise. He's usually golfing. And so you're going to put a man who's almost 80 sitting in a room like this on his butt for all that time? It's not healthy. You know how big of a health nut I am. He needs sunlight, and he needs activity. He needs to be walking around. He needs action. It's really cruel and unusual punishment to make a man do that, and anytime he moves, they threaten to throw him in prison.
I like how he said, like, oh, he needs sunlight. If that's the case, why has he got so much Ronsilon to protect him from the rain? Like, that makes no...
Steph, do you have some connection to the Trump trial?
Oh my God, is this you accusing me of being Stormy Daniels? This is the second time this has happened to me this week. First of all, it was you, Ian.
You'll have to explain that encounter.
Ian didn't pay.
I thought it was mates' rates.
Shall we have a look at this? Lovely clip of private eye there.
But you know what? So many people agree that I look like her, so I should have cashed in on this, shouldn't I?
Taken the hush money.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I did.
In Donald Trump's trial, the first witness was the editor of the National Enquirer, who ran a story claiming one of Trump's Republican opponents had family connections to the JFK assassination, although later it turned out Grassy Knoll was just the name of another porn star.
I know her.
OK, fingers on buzzers, teams.
Bees can do things underwater that people didn't know they could do.
Correct. This is the news that bees can survive underwater. How
Yeah.
did scientists find this out?
They put some bees in the water, came back a week later, and the bees were still alive. Blimey, these bees can live underwater.
Uncannily accurate. Researchers at the University of Guelph in Canada were conducting an experiment on bees when a mishap meant they accidentally kept one submerged in water for 7 days. But happily, the bee survived the mistake. I mean, there was, of course, concern that this was a super bee. So how did they find out that the bee survival wasn't just a fluke?
They waterboarded more of them. I don't know. Where's the honey? Tell us.
Indeed, they did. They drowned some more bees just to make sure.
They're monsters.
According to The Telegraph, 147 bees were exposed to various levels of water for up to a week. Here's a handy diagram. There you go. Over 80% of the bees exposed to the harshest conditions survived. But how do the bees manage to survive underwater for so long?
Scuba gear.
Very, very tiny snorkel.
Minute scuba gear.
Well, the author of the study, a Dr. Rain, described how when...
No way. No way.
Described how when underground or in low oxygen environments, bees can enter a sort of energy saver mode. Nice. Dr. Rain said that bees don't breathe through lungs, but rather through tiny holes along their body that facilitate sporadic bouts of gas exchange.
That's like Liz Truss, isn't it?
We could try keeping her underwater for a week, couldn't we? See what happens, yeah.
Time now for the missing words round, which this week's also includes some tips taken from my website.
That's very stupid. Normally we take a very boring magazine and...
Thank you very much. 15 million monthly users.
Yeah.
Everyone likes a show off.
15 million people do. And we start with, if you're age 60 and over, you can what?
Work for another 25 years.
I do hope so.
Waste your time watching the Martin Lewis website. Joining 15 million other losers.
That's your credit rating, fuck.
The gloves are off. Here we go.
The correct answer is, if you're age 60 or over, you can get 10% off your shopping at Iceland. To claim the discount, which is only on Tuesdays, you have to show a valid proof of old age, such as a senior bus pass, senior rail card, or freedom pass. Failing that, a hardback copy of the latest Richard Osman.
100 million people can't be wrong. That's your literary rating, Colin.
Next one. What proves very effective at calming angry sheep?
Your website.
Yeah.
Is it counting themselves?
The answer is Lynx Africa proves very effective at calming angry sheep. Farmers in Norfolk have discovered that spraying rams with Lynx Africa masks the hormones that make them want to butt heads. If they want to agitate them, they use lynx gravy and mint. Next. Tourists in Milan banned from what after midnight?
Watching the Martin Lewis website. Whistling, singing.
Drinking.
Eating ice cream.
Tourists in Milan banned from eating ice cream.
Oh, is it?
Well done. Plans by Milan Council to curb noise after midnight could mean ice cream sellers have to close earlier. Fair enough, it's no fun when you're trying to sleep and you suddenly hear a drunken English tourist going, "Just one cornetto!" Don't know what you're all laughing at.
Where the hell did that come from?
The diaphragm, darling. And finally, the most surprising items left behind in taxis include what?
Sausages.
What, and what?
Wellington boots and virginity.
Is it The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe?
Yes, gotta be.
The most surprising items left behind in taxis include a jar of oysters, a toupee, and a live turtle.
For some people, that's a night out.
This is actually the survey of Uber drivers in America. Some of the items included a frontal hair toupee, a poster of Hillary Clinton, and a paternity test. Now, you would have thought Donald Trump would have used his own car.
What's a frontal toupee?
Is that like a merkin?
No, God, yeah.
She ran Germany for a while, Angela Merkel.
So the final scores are Ian and Ignacio have 3, but Paul and Steph have 7.
Oh, that's amazing. Well done.
We were one.
But before we go, there's just time for the caption competition.
OK, so Dalek saying, well, I'm still bent on world domination. This is just a Saturday job. Order what you like. I only carry one plate.
On that note, we say thank you to our panellists Ian Hislop and Ignacio Lopez, Paul Merton and Steph McGovern. And I leave you with news that there's an awkward moment for one US Army officer as they're greeted with the words, "Pleased to meet you, Colonel Gaddafi." Following complaints about the standard of food in hospitals, the NHS hires contractors to break the skin on the kitchen's vat of rice pudding. And at a G7 press conference in front of the world's media, one representative really regrets having a second helping of the 3-bean salad. Good night, thank you.
You'll have seen him online as a government advisor, but now here is new comedy podcast for Radio 4. Michael Spicer, No Room, listen on BBC Sense. Next here, a masterclass in how lies can get out of hand. It's avoidance.